Come on, Hillary. Just a little sip. Open up. Come on, take it. Take it.
Well, while we were all busy this weekend celebrating our Independence Day, Hillary Clinton was, of course, meeting with the FBI, celebrating her independence. That's right. She's free. She won't be rounded up, put in handcuffs, and carted off to jail, where we all think she needs to be. Of course, Americans are reacting with fury. If Hillary doesn't follow the law, why should I? Joining me in studio is David Knight. Now, David, I was just gobsmacked by the press briefing today with the FBI director saying that Clinton and her aides were just extremely careless. Yeah, they couldn't care less.
Yeah. Well, she said all along that these were documents that were not classified when she got them. He directly contradicted her. So even though at the beginning I thought that he wasn't going to indict her, when he said that, I thought, wow, they're going to go for an indictment. And yet, amazingly, after he said that, then he went on and said, no, there's nothing to see, move along here. But don't you try this at home, because we'll send you to jail. Look, there are technical issues here. This server just didn't happen to put itself together. And there's also legal, ethical issues, corruption issues. This is a replay of what we saw with the Chinese. We've seen this developed. And as Alex Jones has pointed out, this could very well have just been a drop box to give her plausible deniability to pass secrets on to the Chinese.
And of course, David, one of the most interesting things that the FBI director said was that no reasonable prosecutor would take this case. We are flabbergasted by that because it seems as they've taken this particular case before in the past. So we decided to bring on a reasonable prosecutor, find out, what he thinks. Welcome to the show, Lionel, of course, Emmy award-winning television news decoder and legal analyst, as well as a licensed trial lawyer and former prosecutor. What do you think about this?
Well, first of all, a couple of things here. Let me give you the official academic answer, and then we'll get to the bottom line. Number one, the prosecution has a duty to bring justice. The prosecutor and the FBI is the police department version of the prosecution. Think about it this way. The cops go out, they make the arrest, they do the investigation, then they turn that case over to the DA. The DA charges somebody with burglary or murder or whatever it is. So the cops do the initial investigation. The cops don't tell the prosecutor or the state attorney or the district attorney what to do. The cops will make a recommendation. The cops will tell the DA, look, this is a bad case, a lousy case. Here's our input. But the cops never announce, and there's no reason why this should be charged, because no reasonable prosecutor, a DA would say, whoa, excuse me, Chief Friendly. Excuse me, Chief of Police Macadoo, Knight. Who are you to tell me? No. So that right off the bat was very interesting. Yeah. So, but let me go back to what I was saying, though. That prosecution, FBI, their job is just not to get convictions, not to charge people. So that's okay. The problem with this is that there were myriad reasons why they could have charged Hillary Clinton with a misdemeanor, something other than nothing to see here, move along. Keep in mind, guys, this is in view of, or the tail end of these weird optics this week with the Attorney General and this tarmac confab with the husband of the alleged target, who himself could have been a witness, co-defendant, co-conspirator.
Let me speak to that. Let's say that, Lionel, because, she offered as an excuse saying, hey, we just got together and talked about our close personal relationship. Shouldn't the close personal relationship be the reason in the first place that she would recuse herself even before this secret meeting at the tarmac? And the fact is that if you look at rules, isn't it true that if you've got a prosecutor and a judge, they look at why they should recuse themselves, is if you've got a personal relationship, a close work relationship, a political relationship, and it's check, check, check. All three of those boxes are checked for her. She doesn't do that, and then she openly meets with him.
There is no mandatory rule for a prosecutor to recuse herself in this particular case, just like there's no mandatory reason why a judge should recuse. But my dear learned friends, you're at the highest level of scrutiny and integrity. And there are also Department of Justice rules. So let's not get too bogged down. You have the Loretta Lynch issue here, which stunk to high heaven.
Right.
Because what she should have done is Imagine this. Loretta Lynch says, okay, Bill, now you did it. I don't know what you slipped in my drink or what lapse of judgment I just had, but I just went in, first of all, and it looks, the optics, again, I keep saying optics, of going into this private jet on the tarmac. Well, you know, the hoi polloi like you and me, we're doing the economy class in JetBlue, and they're on the tarmacs of private jets. It looks bad. That's number one. So what Loretta Lynch should have said was, guess what, Bill? You really screwed up because I was your only hope. Now I've got to recuse myself because for the longest time, they've been asking me to step down, that they demanded a special prosecutor. And I said, no, I can maintain my detached professionalism, but now I can't. So guess who you've got now? Torquemada. You've got the worst pit bull prosecutor because of this stupidity on your part and my part. Okay, that's the Lynch thing. Now, what Comey did today was, and I'm just guessing, let's say I'm Aaron Sorkin and I'm doing a screenplay and I'm just being fanciful. Imagine this conversation. Well, Loretta, you screwed up this way. Now I've got to go out and punt it for you. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to fall on the sword. I'm going to basically turn nothing over to you. I'm going to go out, scold Hillary. Part A of my announcement is going to be this indictment of how you have no judgment, you're sloppy, and you want to be the president? You want to handle the 3 o'clock in the morning call? So I'm going to go out in part A of my announcement. I'm going to just say you're sloppy, and you're terrible, and you disregard rules and security and the government. Then I'm going to do a 180 and say, however, despite the foregoing, no reasonable prosecutor would do this. Deutsch notwithstanding, Petraeus notwithstanding, all of the whistleblowers who have been packed away and they're cracking rocks upstate for a host of things. But I'm going to say no reasonable prosecutor. So, Loretta, I'm going to get you off the hook by basically turning over nothing to you. So Loretta can say, well, you heard it from the FBI themselves. So Loretta is saved. Comey is saved. And also, keep in mind this. And again, remember, my dear friends, as learned as we are, we're still civilians in this Byzantine world of Game of Thrones prosecution and that sort of thing. You don't get to be the FBI director by being a rogue. You don't get to be a guy who is looking down the road for, things like retirement, Wall Street gigs, board of directors of corporation. You don't. You know, as you look to the sunset of your career and really the big time and the big bucks, and you're a company guy, you don't get to be you don't become the FBI director by being a rogue. And
I think that's what she meant. I think that's what he meant by a reasonable prosecutor, a corporate guy who's looking out for his career. Hey, we want to be reasonable about that. Let's talk about some of the specifics, Lionel. He said, as he would lay this out, and at first I told my wife, I said, look, you look at everything that's happened this last week, and he's holding this now the day after the 4th of July, as they unrolled all this stuff over the holiday weekend. I said, they're letting her walk for sure. But then he starts laying out the criminal case. And he comes in and he says, hey, was there classified information? And then later on he says, yes, there was classified information. Was it improperly stored and transmitted? Yes, he says. But then he leaves himself and a subjective out. He says, was it intentional? Was it grossly negligent? And then when he goes on, he says, well, we didn't find it was intentional, even though she had changed the classified headings on some of these issues so that it could get transmitted into her own personal system. He goes on to say later on, there's evidence that they were extremely careless. Why is that not grossly negligent when you're talking about this level of security?
Look, the particular statutes that we're talking about, there was a FOIA statute, there's Title 18 of USC, United States Code. There's a host of statutes and language that talk about criminal intent, mens rea. Do you have the criminal intent to do something, gross negligence? A lot of times, some of the most serious offenses that we can commit do not really involve any kind of, scienter, yes, meaning knowingly doing something, but this deliberate intent to defraud, to upend justice. No, sometimes it can be a very simple thing. For example, if you don't file taxes, if you don't pay the government, you can argue all day long as I didn't deliberately do this, I didn't intentionally harm the government. They don't care about that. Do you think Deutsch, the CIA director, do you think Petraeus knowingly, deliberately went to harm this government? No, that's not the point. They don't write statutes that give you a way out. Look, let me just leave you, my dear friends, with this. Let's just some kernel, some nugget of perhaps hope for justice. Not conviction, not indictment. I'm not out to see Hillary Clinton indicted or incarcerated. That's not what I want. Justice. I want equal treatment under the law.
Right.
Yeah.
But imagine this. Imagine Comey said, well, Hillary, if you go back and listen to what I said, I told the people about my investigation of you and your behavior involving the server. What I didn't mention was this other particular statute, and that is lying to the FBI.
Right.
Because as you recall, Martha Stewart was sent to the Pokey, the Gray Bar Inn, the Hoosgow, not because of insider trading, but because she lied to the FBI. So if you listen carefully, Hillary, what I said was that as far as you violating these server and secure transmission statutes, that's one thing. However, after the fact, we went through all of the testimony, and how many times she's met or talked to the government, I don't know. But whenever you speak to the FBI, and how Hillary Clinton never took the fifth, how she actually spoke, allegedly for 3.5 hours, you are opening yourself up. And by the way, the Fifth Amendment is not a loophole of the guilty. It's a constitutional right that you have the ability as a citizen to take. The Second Amendment is just as good as the Fifth Amendment.
Yeah.
But there is something to be said for that. Don't hold your breath, but lying to the government and perjury and giving inconsistent statements under oath, not necessarily to a grand jury itself, but to the FBI, that's the derivative angle in addition to the substantive charges.
And Hillary Clinton said that this last week. She said, look, I exposed myself to a very serious crime. Many times they don't charge you with what the initial investigation is about, but they will charge you for inaccurate statements saying that you're lying to the FBI. Lionel, to my cynical mind, I believe that is why Loretta Lynch and Bill Clinton met. I believe that it was a briefing to tell him precisely where they were going with this, what they knew, to make sure that she was going to have a prepared statement. This is a woman who's not had a press conference for about 215 days, and she has everything prepared and laid out for her. I think that was the point of that meeting, quite frankly, in my cynical point of view.
I agree.
Well, you know, they say just because you're paranoid doesn't mean no one's after you, and just because you're cynical doesn't mean you're wrong. So, my friends, as we will find out, this remains to be seen, and please accept my offer to return to these hallowed portals again to discuss and explicate this most fascinating subject.
Yes.
You know, Lionel, we've only got a couple of minutes left, and I just want to get a quick comment from you about his essentially don't try this at home.
Right.
When he finished up with this, he said, to be clear, this isn't to suggest that in similar circumstances, a person who's not running for president, who's not Hillary Clinton, engaged in this activity would face no consequences. To the contrary, those individuals are often subject to security or administrative sanctions. That's not to say, that's not what we're deciding now. This is simply a special treatment for Hillary Clinton. That's what he's saying.
It only applies to her.
Yeah, your comment.
Let's imagine right now as we speak, John Kerry decides to go to his basement or his bathroom or hall, closet, put in his own server, and do exactly what Hillary Clinton did. Can he expect the same treatment? No. Is that fair? No. Is that reality? Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Well, what do we think about the fact that they're trying to tell us that Hillary Clinton was just that ignorant that she did this, and yet we're supposed to put her in the most powerful position?
Right. Right. Listen.
Is she a criminal or an idiot?
Remember when President Obama was asked, do you have a BlackBerry? Well, I do the BlackBerry, but you know, I got to have a special one, and I don't do it because I got to have the special BlackBerry that they've approved, and it's secured, and you know, I'm the president, and I'd love to be able to do it to get my scores. And there was an article this week in the New York Times about how he has his own secure BlackBerry. Remember that? He can't, you don't want somebody hacking in. And by the way, final question. This fellow, this IT tech who took the fifth 125 times or something,
Right.
took the fifth for what? If Hillary Clinton did anything wrong, Why did he do anything wrong? What is he taking the fifth for?
And I think that's the key point, because when you say that it wasn't intentional, it just didn't happen that she had this complex setup of private security. She was putting her own personal secrecy above national secrets. That was what this is all about.
Exactly.
Imagine David, you and Leanne are involved in something. Leanne goes into a one room. She's investigated by the FBI. She takes a fit 150 times. You answer all the questions. You walk and she says, what the hell did I take the fit? Wait a minute. Something's not right here.
Well, it just seems like all around in every direction, they really do not care anymore what this looks like to the American people, because we all say it stinks to high heaven, but they're just letting us know that they can do whatever they want. They're above the law.
Let me leave you with this one. Here's the way the Clintons think. When they do something, when they get away with it, they don't want to get away with it. They don't want to get away with murder. They want the murder to be done at the 6 o'clock news with 1 million cameras and say, see?
Yes.
You know,
yes, that's it. It's in your
and
face.
now elect us.
Absolutely.
They are bulletproof. They have Kevlar. They want to habituate to the idea that they're in a separate gravity field, a parallel universe.
That's right.
That nothing, you're not even going to believe them or your lying eyes, as the great Groucho Marx said.
Well, it definitely feels like we're in the Twilight Zone. Lionel, thank you so much for joining us. We'll have you back soon. Well, stick around, because coming up, we're going to break down some of the most damaging things that were said in today's FBI press briefing. Welcome back. Well, if you had any question about it, today it is for fact. The rule of law doesn't mean a damn thing if you are Hillary Clinton. Now, in today's FBI press briefing, the FBI director actually said some pretty damning things, giving off the impression initially, David, that she might actually face some prosecution here.
Yeah.
But then, plot
and he contradicted
twist,
what she said.
no charges.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's very important, Leanne, that we look at the fact that he contradicted directly what she said. She had said, I never received or sent anything that was classified. And he said, no, she got 110 emails that were classified when sent or received. So right there, they catch her. In fact, maybe she didn't say that to them privately, so she didn't lie to the FBI. She just lied to the American public for a very long time. Then he goes on to say, and then there was additional 2,000 emails that were later up classified. And we've had this discussion before as well. Many of these things, because of the nature of her office, and these are private conversations that are that information is sent out right away, they're later classified, but they are born classified. They're born classified because these are private discussions between other heads of state. And so she knows that. She and her husband know that. I want to focus on what he had to say, and I want to focus on the different treatment that we have seen in the past for people who were CIA directors, people who were whistleblowers. And I think it's very interesting to look at the fact, as we mentioned with Lionel just previously, it was clear that she had classified information. She sent and received this information. It doesn't matter whether it was 110 or 2010 that she did, okay? Still, she had these classified pieces of information. And was it improperly stored and transmitted? There's no question that that's the case, okay? He talks about both of those things.
He said that himself. He said they should never have been on any kind of unclassified system.
That's right. So but he leaves her out, saying, was it intentional? Was it grossly negligent? Well, we know that it was an intentional thing because she instructed people to overrule the classified markings on these things so they could be transmitted via fax and other means. And we know that it was grossly negligent because she made no attempt to provide security. And this is precisely what we saw in the previous indictment of John Deutsch, who was the CIA director under Bill Clinton in 1996. They immediately went in, they raided his home, they took all of his information, they didn't allow his lawyers to take a look at this and cherry pick what they were going to turn over to the FBI. They got everything. And if you look at the statute that they have for this, they say that anybody who is an officer who by virtue of their office becomes possessed of documents or materials containing classified information, knowingly removes such documents or materials without authority with the intent to retain such documents or materials at an unauthorized location. That's why he was convicted and then pardoned by her husband, Bill Clinton. But I want to take a look at Thomas Drake, because I think this is even more egregious. Because we have the FBI director saying that no reasonable prosecutor would do this. Because we're looking at this and we're saying, well, there is evidence of potential violations. There's not. It's not potential. Okay, these were actual violations. They were classified, improperly stored, grossly negligent, and as we point out, there is intention. Okay, but he says, we've had decisions like this in the past, and we're not going to do this in the future, okay? In the past, we have handled this differently. Yeah, because the context now is Hillary Clinton and the powerful Clintons, and so they're going to let this get a pass. Take a look at the case of Thomas Drake. He's one of the 4 key whistleblowers of the NSA, trying to tell people in the wake of September 11th that they were now doing dragnet surveillance on the public. They tried to go to the Congress. They did it that way. They were shut down repeatedly. Nobody wanted to hear that story. And eventually they came after him. They charged him with 10 felony counts, 5 under the Espionage Act, 1 obstruction of justice statement, 4 for making false statements to the FBI. There you go. There's that hook they always put on you, making false statements to the FBI. He was facing 35 years in prison. They completely destroyed his life. Okay. One of the documents that he had was what a success, quote unquote. Is a document that was the subject of the first count. Okay, remember, there's only 4 documents that they came after him, 4 or 5 documents. Okay, it was classified as secret on the day they found it in his home. It was not a classified document. It was later declassified by the NSA, yet they continued to try to prosecute him. It was a persecution because he was a whistleblower. He said they came to him and they said, Drake, you are screwed. They said, we're going to send you to jail. And they had another document. He said, I was made an enemy of the state just because they said I was. Hillary Clinton is exonerated just because they say she's exonerated. Now, here's one of the other documents they had. It listed a schedule of meetings about a project called Turbulence, just listed the schedule of meetings. It was marked unclassified for official use only. It was also posted on the NSA's internal website. The government since argued the schedule should have been classified, and he should have known that it should have been classified. A schedule of meetings. That was all it had. They said, you should have known that was classified, even though it wasn't. Should Hillary have known that her private conversations with foreign heads of state were classified? Of course she should have. And the director knows that as well. This is criminal, what he did. And to say that don't think that you're going to get away with this in the future, anybody else, this is special treatment for Hillary Clinton. The fact that he would say that in this indictment is the most amazing thing out of all of these lies that we've seen unfolding in this last week, this collusion between the Justice Department, the State Department, and this criminal FBI. This guy is at the level of criminal corruption that we saw with J. Edgar Hoover. That's one of the most amazing things I've seen, Leanne.
Right. I mean, and it's like, what do they have over him? He would come out and admit, here's some of these things, but we're going to, not this time. So now we also know that she did certify under penalty of perjury that she'd fully complied with this court order to hand over all of her official emails to the State Department. But we learned last week that of the many emails that she actually withheld, one of them was a very damning email shedding light on how this bootleg server that she had set up was a huge security threat, and that caused the State Department to temporarily lower its secure systems firewall. So they had to lower the firewall, don't send any emails, we've been hacked into. And we know that there were other work emails not turned over by Clinton. And we actually learned about this during one of the Benghazi hearing, and her response to that, why didn't you hand over everything that had to do with Sidney Blumenthal, your secret person here that's telling you all about your job? Well, she said that she wasn't under any obligation to turn over those emails if she didn't personally decide that they were work-related. So she made herself the boss over what needs to be subject to FOIA request.
And we have to look at this and say, is this a case, as Alex pointed out, I personally believe this is a case of plausible deniability, so she can put a Dropbox in here to pass information to sources who are going to give them money. Understand, exactly 20 years ago, we had the Democrat Party involved, as well as Bill Clinton, in a scandal where there was secrets for money with Chinese businessmen, Chinese government officials. We had people like Charlie Tree, also Ing Lap Sing, who is now involved again in this scandal that involved John Ash, who just mysteriously died with a barbell dropped on his neck. Okay. And again, it's the same people, exactly the same players, the same Chinese businessmen, the same MO. Okay. Nothing changes. They're doing exactly what they did 20 years ago because they got away with it. And they're doing it in your face again now. And this is what's so criminal about this. When we look at these statements, when they were coming after Thomas Drake, We had William Welch, who was a senior litigation counselor at the time. He said, this isn't an issue of benign documents against Thomas Drake, even though I just read to you that they were benign. They were not classified documents. It was absurd what they were doing. These were schedules that had been posted, weren't classified, and these were things that were like training documents. They were coming after him in a manner of persecution. He said, when individuals go out and harm our ability, our intelligence goes dark, and our soldiers in the field get harmed. That's what he said. That's the issue behind why you have national security. And yet all of that is waived. Everything that they do to us to destroy our individual liberties, to destroy our privacy, to invade us in every aspect of our life, that is all justified by this altar of national security. And what she has done is essentially sliced open a pig on this sacred altar of national security. She and the State Department and the FBI, I don't want to hear any more about national secrets, and I don't want to hear any more about the fact that the rest of us have to obey draconian laws that are unconstitutional while they pass. And that's the hallmark of a tyranny, of a dictatorship, the fact that there's these double standards and the fact that they're going to go draconian and unconstitutional on us, but these people can do anything they want in public, killing people, violating state secrets, and they walk because of who they are.
Right. And they think that we are so stupid, the American people, that we're going to elect someone that they're basically saying that their level of incompetence and carelessness with this was astounding. But let's go ahead and make her the most powerful.
If it's not criminal, she's amazingly incompetent.
Right.
It just couldn't be any more arrogantly brazen. Hillary Clinton has been cleared by the FBI for the heinous breach of the United States national security.
Our investigation looked at whether there is evidence that classified information was improperly stored or transmitted on that personal system in violation of a federal statute that makes it a felony to mishandle classified information, either intentionally or in a grossly negligent way, or a second statute making it a misdemeanor to knowingly remove classified information from appropriate systems or storage facilities. And consistent with our counterintelligence responsibilities, we have also investigated to determine if there is evidence of computer intrusion by nation states or by hostile actors of any kind. Now, I have so far used the singular term email server in describing the referral that began our investigation. It turns out to have been more complicated than that. Secretary Clinton used several different servers and administrators of those servers during her 4 years at the State Department. Email was assessed as possibly containing classified information. The FBI referred that email to any government agency that might be an owner of that information, so that agency could make a determination as to whether the email contained classified information at the time it was sent or received, or whether there was reason to classify it now, even if the content had not been classified when it was first sent or received. And that's the process sometimes referred to as up-classifying. From the group of 30,000 emails returned to the State Department in 2014, 110 in 52 email chains have been determined by the owning agency to contain classified information at the time they were sent or received. 8 of those chains contained information that was top secret at the time they were sent. 36 of those chains contained secret information at the time, and 8 contained confidential information at the time. That's the lowest level of classification. Separate from those, about 2,000 additional emails were up-classified to make them confidential. Those emails had not been classified at the time that they were sent or received. Although we did not find clear evidence that Secretary Clinton or her colleagues intended to violate laws governing the handling of classified information, there is evidence that they were extremely careless in their handling of very sensitive information.
Hillary Clinton used her Secretary of State position to set up a Dropbox for her $1 million clandestine espionage Clinton Foundation operation. That alone should have taken down Hillary. However, she and her husband have been dodging persecution long before her rise under Obama's reign.
He should have been impeached and convicted, and then I think subsequently charged with treason for these 2 transactions. In essence, he ignored U.S. law to trade high-level technology to the Russians. But even more egregious, he essentially took $300,000 in illegal Chinese campaign contributions, passed through Johnny Chung in return for a three-party transaction in which he sold the actual technology that targets our missiles, the accuracy of our missiles, to the Chinese government. By any other name, this is treason.
The elite are writing their own Declaration of Independence in the legacy of their puppets of globalism, and the shot has been heard around the world. Paul Joseph Watson writes, many Americans reacted furiously to the FBI's announcement that Hillary Clinton should not face criminal charges over her email scandal, with some asserting that since the former Secretary of State appears to be above the law, they would also now refuse to follow the law. One respondent asked, why should we follow the law when our leaders don't? This Clinton BS has sealed the deal for me. We are ruled by a corrupt cabal that is above the law. Attorney General Loretta Lynch has already said she would abide by the FBI's recommendation. Of course she will. She orchestrated it illegally right out in the open. Make no mistake about it. If Hillary is elected president, she will bring with her decades of protected criminal activity, a state of mind that she will unleash on the founding principles of the United States of America. This is how America dies. John Bowne for Infowars.com.
Let's go ahead and go to Sergeant B from Texas. You're on the air. Welcome.
Hey, Alex. I want to put a call out to everyone listening. We need everyone out there who has any skills in multimedia, audio, video, PowerPoint, slideshows, you name it. Need a campaign and start putting out a list of everyone who's been prosecuted for the same crimes Hillary committed with the quote by Director Comey saying no reasonable prosecutor would bring such a case because it's obviously bull. Right in U.S. Code 793, it is stated in multiple paragraphs, very wordy. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it does state very clearly what he said in that press conference today, that she did commit these crimes, and it does state, shall be fined under this title or in prison not more than 10 years or both.
Levin and Kurlitz said, this certainly sends the signal that they are nearing an end to their investigation. Typically, the way we structured the investigations when I was a federal prosecutor is that we would seek to interview the target last. Stephen Levin continues, as you begin to interview people who are extremely close to the target of an investigation, people who are considered confidants, you typically interview those people towards the final stages of the investigation. So that way, if they tell you something that is contrary to something you've already learned, you can immediately challenge them on that information. Tech activist Marcel Lazar, a.k.a. Guccifer, claims to have breached Hillary's server at least twice. Guccifer said he first compromised Clinton confidant Sidney Blumenthal's AOL account in March of 2013 and used that as a stepping stone to the Clinton server. He said he accessed Clinton's server like twice, though he described the contents as not interesting to him at the time. Doodles by Bill Clinton appear to back up Guccifer's claims that were released as far back as 2013. It bears repeating the extent to which Hillary violated her position in the State Department, because most people have become completely accustomed to corruption as business as usual. Here are the facts. As the nation's chief diplomat, Hillary Clinton was responsible for ascertaining whether information in her possession was classified and acknowledged that negligent handling of that information could jeopardize national security, according to a copy of an agreement she signed upon taking the job. A day after assuming office as Secretary of State, Clinton signed a sensitive compartmented information non-disclosure agreement that laid out criminal penalties for any unauthorized disclosure of classified information. The sensitive compartmented information non-disclosure agreement details how Hillary has been granted access to sensitive compartmented information, or SCI, classified information. The agreement states that Hillary hereby acknowledges that the disclosure of SCI may constitute violations of United States criminal laws and that nothing in the agreement constitutes a waiver by the United States of the right to prosecute for any statutory violation. The agreement is also severable, meaning if one part is unenforceable, the remainder of the provisions in the agreement remain in full force and effect. Bottom line, U.S. intelligence officials determined at least 4 and up to 305 of the emails Hillary's aides printed out were from Hillary's personal server and were SCI at the time they were written. 2 of the emails discussed classified drone information deemed top secret by the CIA. Hillary Clinton faces 10 years behind bars as required under the Espionage Act. Jeffrey Sterling, a CIA leak, was sentenced to 3.5 years after disclosing national defense information concerning a covert operation. And General David Petraeus was slapped with 2 years probation and a fine of $100,000 for revealing classified documents to his mistress. Petraeus, a former director of the CIA, a 4-star general, and CENTCOM commander, had served our country for 37 years. So why would Hillary Clinton deserve immunity? Ignorance and/or negligence of Hillary's possession of highly sensitive, classified emails is no joke. In fact, if Hillary does walk away from this investigation with a slap on the wrist, after she personally went to great lengths to cover up a mountain of evidence, the entire farce will demonstrate just how far gone the Federal Bureau of Investigation and the Justice Department really are. Hillary's path of deception could even serve to take those departments to the cleaners if Donald Trump becomes president and keeps his word. John Bowne for Infowars.com.